Hola, en lección 23 no tenemos mucho tiempo la semana pasada, entonces hicimos la historia un poquito demasiado rápido. Entonces voy a hacer una versión en inglés de la historia y postearlo en YouTube, donde salen los subtítulos, y voy a postear el enlace para que ustedes puedan leerlo conmigo. Entonces necesitas tu copia. Habrá subtítulos, pero no sé si van a ser perfectos. Pero recuerda, si no me entiendes y quieres escucharlo más lento, abajo, cuando estás en YouTube, al lado de CC, hay una ruedita. Y pulsa la rueda y puedes cambiar la velocidad. Y simplemente hablo más lento. No hay distorsión ni nada. Ok. The wise old king. El rey viejo sabio. By Ian Bond, of course. Okay. Once upon a time, many years ago, in old Colombia, there was an old king called Rodolfo. King Rodolfo was a great king, and his people loved him, and they were very sad for the king when his lovely Queen Sarah died many years ago and left him alone with his sadness. But Rodolfo could console himself with the fact that he had 3 sons to remind him of his beautiful Sarah. The first son was the tall and handsome Alvaro. The second was the educated John. And the third was timid little Victor. King Rodolfo could see qualities of Sarah in all of them, and he tried to be a good and kind father to them. He also tried to prepare all of them to be king one day, and wanted them to love the people of Colombia as much as him. The king started to suffer from bad health and became weaker, and the people became sadder. But the king, even on his deathbed, wanted to take care of his people and make sure that they were in safe hands after his death. So he decided to test his 3 sons. He asked Alvaro, Victor, and John to assemble the next day in the court in front of all of his advisors. Everyone came quietly into the court to find the king in his bed in the middle of the room. Everyone knew the king was weak, so there was complete silence as they waited for him to speak. The king told everyone that, as he was in his deathbed, he wanted to test his sons. He said that he was going to die soon, and that he would stay in the court, in his bed, until the end of the test. He carefully explained the test to everyone. He told each of his sons to fill the entire room with something, whatever material they chose, and whichever son did it best would become the king after he died. The task was simple, but the solution was complicated, because the court was extremely big, with a very tall ceiling. The 3 sons needed to think hard before beginning. The first son, Alvaro, brought diamonds, millions of diamonds, which filled half the room. He spent all of his inheritance money from his mother on the diamonds, and he probably stole some of them from the people. The king was not impressed with this room, just 1/4 full of jewels, and Alvaro stepped back from the bed while they cleared away the diamonds. The second son, John, filled the room with cotton, because he was intelligent, and he had chosen something which would go high up to the ceiling. But it wasn't sufficient. There were many spaces, and the king tutted his approval. And he looked at the gaps in the cotton. John went out of the room, his eyes filled with tears, and unable to see what he could have done better. Then the third waited for all the cotton to be removed, and then quietly removed an oil lamp from a box, quietly lighting it with a match. The light filled the whole room, and the king smiled at his son before saying, "My son, you are truly a worthy successor to me. You have shown that problems are always solved using the simplest solutions and the least fuss. You have shown your brothers how money and education are never substitutes for natural intelligence. I declare that Victor will be the next king of Colombia." And with that, the king closed his eyes and, still smiling, he died, a peaceful and content old man. Everyone was sad, but they trusted the king, and they saw the smile on his face, and they saw that he was happy to be leaving his beloved Colombia in safe hands, in Victor's hands. One moment. Victor turned to the advisors, who knelt before him, shouting, "God save the king! God save the king!" More people from the palace came into the court and shouted, "God save the king!" too. Victor quietened them with his hands before making his first speech as king. "My lords, ladies, and gentlemen, do not think that I will ever play these stupid games invented by my father again. Go and find my brother, Alvaro, take away all of his diamonds and put them in my safe. Find my older brother, John, and take away all of his cotton, and then send it to my tailors to make me the finest clothes for my coronation. Then take the two of them out into the public square and cut off their heads in front of everyone, because I want everyone to know that I do not and I will not tolerate anyone who is a threat to my reign as king." The court fell into complete silence. King Victor looked at every person directly into their eyes as he continued dictating his new rules. The old king never spoke to them in such a horrible way in all of his lifetime. But in those few seconds, they all realized that if they valued their lives, they must do what he instructed. And that was the day the people began to hate the king. "God save us," they whispered to each other. Ok, ahora tienen unas preguntas. Tienes que intentar recordar la historia y contestar desde tu memoria. Sencillas, respuestas sencillas, pero no una sola palabra. Recuerda, sujeto, verbo, complemento. Entonces, number 1. What was the king's wife's name? What was the king's wife's name? Her name was... Recuérdalo. What happened to the queen? Number 2. What happened to the queen? Sujeto, the queen. The queen. There you go. Number 3. What consoled the king in his sadness? What consoled the king in his sadness? To console is consolar. So, la respuesta es consoled the king because blah blah blah. Okay? Number 4. What did the king ask his 3 sons to do? What did the king ask his 3 sons to do? Sujeto, the king. The king. Number 5. What did the first son do? What did the first son do? Sujeto, the first son. Number 6. How did the second son fail? Sujeto, the second son, verbo, failed because blah 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 blah. Tu respuesta. Number 7. What quality did the king think was more important in his children? Sujeto. The king thought that was the most important. Okay? Number 8. What happened to all the diamonds after the king died? What happened to all the diamonds after the king died? Alguien hizo algo con los diamantes. ¿Quién? Number 9. What did they do with all the cotton? ¿Dónde está el algodón? What did they do with all the cotton? Number 10. What did Victor do to his brothers? Victor. Okay? Victor. Number 11. Were the people happy with their new king? Were the people happy with their new king? No olvides contestar. No. Number 12. Do you think that Colombia will win the next World Cup? I told you, this story is fantasy. More fantasy. Okay. Have a good day. That's lesson 23. Lesson 23. Thank you. Bye.